This is a Squiz Kids podcast. Your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you.
It covers 2/3 of our planet's surface. It's the reason there's life on Earth, and still 2 billion people on our planet don't have enough. This is your Squiz Kids shortcut to water, the podcast where we dive into the who, what, when, where, why and how of the big news stories. I'm Amanda Bauer.
And I'm Bryce Corbett.
Bryce, March 22 is World Water Day every year, which the United Nations started almost 30 years ago to draw attention to the world water crisis. So for most of 2022 and the start of 2023, we've seen devastating rainstorms and flooding all over Australia. So with all that water everywhere, it seems hard for us to believe that the crisis the UN is talking about isn't having too much water, it's too little.
What?
Yeah, so 2 billion people, that's billion with a B, don't have access to safe water. That's almost 30% of the world's population. And in case you haven't covered percentages yet in school, Squiz Kids, that means 3 out of every 10 people on our planet.
Yep, today we'll take you through why there's a crisis, how unsafe water can make you sick, and what kids can do to help.
Listen carefully, there's a squiz at the end.
Why?
When astronauts first looked down on Earth from space, they called it the blue planet because more than 2/3 of the surface of our planet is water. And Bryce, we humans are like our planet. Our bodies are made up of 60% water and our blood is 90% water. And as we all know, humans need water to survive.
And why is that exactly?
Well, every cell in our body needs water. We use it to build the cells when we're growing in our mum's uterus, and once we come out, we use water to keep our body at the right temperature.
Oh yeah, and when we sweat, that sweat is actually cooling us down, and sweat is made up of water.
Yeah, exactly. And we also use the water in our blood to transport the food throughout our body. And of course, water also helps us to get the waste out of our body through our urine and feces.
Which are the fancy medical words for wee and poo.
Water is also a shock absorber. Our brain and our spinal cord are surrounded by fluid to protect us, and our joints, like our knees and elbows and wrists and ankles, they have capsules of fluid to help them move smoothly.
So, how much water do we need to stay alive?
Well, it depends on your age and size, of course, but the Australian government recommends that kids drink between 1 and 2 litres a day, or between 5 and 10 glasses.
So, with all this water on the planet, why are so many people unable to get safe water to drink?
Well, the first thing is that we can't drink salt water. Anyone who's copped a mouthful at the beach knows that just makes you thirstier.
Yeah, absolutely.
So only 1% of the world's water is liquid, fresh water.
Wow.
Yeah, not a lot. And there are 2 main problems causing the crisis. The first is that in some places we're using too much water. And the second reason is that in some other places, the water is polluted.
Surely we aren't using too much water in Australia. We've had so many droughts. We all know about water restrictions, right?
Well, you're right that we are one of the driest places in the world, despite those recent storms. But actually, we use more water per capita, that means per person, than just about any other country in the world.
Wow. Is that just because it's so hot here?
Well, you might think that, but actually only around 1% is used for drinking. In most houses, drinking quality water is used to flush toilets and to water gardens. And all around the world, the biggest user of water by far is in agriculture, so on farms. I'll tell you a bit later about what we can do to change our habits and reduce how much water we use.
Okay, but before we do that, tell me about the second problem of water pollution. How does that happen and how can it make you sick?
How?
The UN says that most water pollution problems are caused by agriculture, industry and untreated wastewater. So most farms use fertilizers to get their plants to grow better and faster and pesticides to kill the creepy crawlies that want to eat their crops. But those chemicals can get washed by rain into rivers and lakes and can also be absorbed into the groundwater below the surface.
Oh, and I'm guessing factories and other industry could also be washing chemicals into the water supply too.
Yeah, that's right. And not only can those chemicals damage the water, but they can also kill the teeny tiny microorganisms that live in fresh water and actually help to keep it clean. So in some countries, there are really strict rules on how agriculture and industry are allowed to get rid of their waste, but in others, it just gets dumped.
You also mentioned something called wastewater.
Yeah, so wastewater is basically water that's been used. It's made up of 99.9% water and then 0.1% of other stuff that has to be removed before you can use the water again.
Wait, what? Use it again?
Oh, yeah, that's right. The water on our planet now is the exact same water that the dinosaurs were drinking.
Whoa!
We don't ever get new water. It basically gets recycled by being evaporated, where it turns into clouds and falls back down again as rain or snow or fog. I'll pop a video in your episode notes to explain the water cycle more. But the fact that we don't get any new water means that how we deal with wastewater is very important. And most important is how we deal with poo in the water.
Oh no, we usually love talking about poo on Squiz Kids, but poo in the water doesn't sound good at all.
Ew! Definitely not. So almost half of the world's population does not have safely managed sanitation services, meaning that their poo water isn't treated properly and the poo, which can carry diseases, ends up back in their drinking water. About 80% of all the diseases in those places is associated with dirty water. And according to the United Nations, around 5,000 kids die every day from diarrhea caused by dirty water.
Oh, wow. That is a frightening statistic.
Yeah.
Thank goodness wastewater is treated properly in Australia, but what can kids do here to help the global water crisis and help out kids in other countries who aren't so lucky?
What?
Yeah, it can feel really frustrating to hear that 5,000 kids are dying every day in other parts of the world because you want to help, but you just don't know how. Well, being aware of the problem is important, though, and there are organisations that raise money to build toilets and treatment facilities. And there's also a lot we can do at home to save and protect our water.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
Well, there's the easy stuff like just using less. If you were to cut your daily shower time by 3 minutes, you'd save 13,140 litres of water a year.
Wow.
And then, if your family needs a new washing machine or a dishwasher, you can encourage your parents to buy one that is water efficient.
Please.
Haha, nothing like a bit of pester power.
Now, there are also some really cool ways to reuse what's called grey water. So that's water that's been used, but it's clean enough to use again for something like watering the garden or flushing the toilet. So I've put a link in your episode notes to a really nifty toilet sink combo. So basically you wash your hands in the sink and the water from washing your hands goes into the toilet's tank, ready for the next time you flush.
That's clever.
Because there's really no need to use drinking water to get rid of your poo.
No.
I've also put in a link about how to reduce what's called your food print, footprint, but food print.
Oh, yep.
Did you know that it takes more than 15,000 litres of water to produce just 1 kilo of beef?
What?
Yeah, and then chicken is a third of that, and vegetables are the lowest of all.
I guess I could switch from a hamburger to a chicken burger every now and then.
Or even go crazy and have a veggie burger.
That'd be pushy.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. How much of the water we use is consumed by drinking? That's right, it's 1%.
Question number 2. What is the name of the kind of water that needs to be treated before it can be used again? Yep, it's wastewater.
Question number 3. You could save 13,140 litres of water each year if you did what? That's right, showering for 3 minutes less every day.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us as we explored the who, what, how, where, when, and why of water.
Thank you, Amanda. Now get out there and have a most excellent day.
Over and out.